Hi, my name's Herald-Gutmann. I cover North Carolina for the Durham Herald-Sun. I'm here with my colleague Steve Wiseman, who covers Duke. And welcome to Our Game, a video production by the Herald-Sun, where we talk about our game in the state of North Carolina, which is, of course, college basketball. Duke was off this week. They didn't have any games, so now's a good chance to kind of look back and take the temperature. Steve, what's the state of the team right now?
You know, they've had a really good start. They're 7-2. The two losses, I guess, are one thing that people have some concern about because Duke's not used to losing early season games. The two games they lost to were top-ranked teams, number one, Arizona, and Kansas is the top 5 team all year. So they have been, good losses. You can't say they're bad losses. But what Duke's shown us so far is they're a pretty good shooting team for the most part. There's some improvement that can be made there. That's one of the reasons why they lost against Arizona was their shooting. Defensively, they're not as cohesive as they want to be, although they showed some signs of improvement over the last 2 or 3 games, particularly in New York against Alabama, and then against Michigan when they won the game at Cameron in the Big Ten ACC Challenge. So there's progress being made in that area. They're not the team they're going to be in March right now, and that's the whole thing we have to realize here. They have a true freshman who's a leading scorer. They're still working with this new offense to get Jabari Parker and Rodney Hood, the main guys, get everybody cohesive with what they're doing. So there's time for improvement here, and they've still got a couple of weeks here before they begin ACC play. But I think Coach K overall right now is kind of happy with where they are. There's obviously some places for improvement, but I think he sees the way they're going to get there and the team they're going to be eventually.
Yeah, you mentioned Duke with the 2 losses, the 2 good losses to good teams. North Carolina is kind of the opposite. They also have 2 losses, but people kind of perceive them as 2 bad losses to UAB and Belmont, 2 unranked teams, although both could conceivably make the tournament. Belmont certainly has a history of making the tournament in the past. But North Carolina kind of balances that with their 2 big wins against Louisville and Michigan State. So yes. Everyone kind of assumed, they got the big game against Kentucky coming up on Saturday. Everyone kind of assumed UNC would be 6-2 at this point, but it's just the way they got there has kind of been really interesting. People kind of assumed that, they lose the games they'd win and they'd win the games they lose. But they are 6-2. Like you said, Duke's got a leading scorer as a freshman. UNC's got, a freshman point guard. They got 3 guys who didn't really start last year, and Joel James, the center, and also JP Tokoto on the wing. So they got some new pieces as well. It's going to take some time for them to mesh. I think the key to this Kentucky game coming up is going to be in the front court. Kentucky's got one guy who's got more blocks than North Carolina's entire team has combined. They got Willie Cauley-Stein. They got Julius Randle, who one of the top freshmen in the country. Really imposing presence down low. Whereas UNC, they're still kind of working in what their post presence is going to look like. They have some guys like Joel James, who's really strong on defense and not as strong on offense. And then conversely, they got guys like Bryce Johnson, like Kennedy Meeks, who are really strong on the offensive end and not going on defense. So it's going to take time, and these are all underclassmen, for them to kind of work it out. But this will be a really interesting test against Kentucky. And I think the battle in the paint down low is really going to be the one that decides it.
I will say about that, I saw Kentucky play in Chicago when they were part of the Champions Classic, and they're a team kind of like Duke right now. They're so young that they're having trouble with cohesion, particularly on defense. I know they lost to Baylor last Friday night. That's one thing that Coach Calipari mentioned. So there is area for Carolina to take advantage there and maybe get another big win.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned you were in Chicago when Duke and Kansas and Kentucky, Michigan State, all these teams were there. It's interesting. It used to be like 5 or 10 years ago, this Carolina-Kentucky game was kind of an anomaly. It was maybe once or twice a season you get these big matchups early in the non-conference. Now it seems like every week Duke's already played, like say Arizona and Kansas, Carolina's already played Michigan State and Louisville. It seems like you get a lot of these big power matchups early in the non-conference, a lot more than you used to. So it is really interesting. You do get a sense of where your team stands as compared to just playing all these in-state non-conference opponents. You don't really learn that much. So it's definitely made it a more interesting season. But like you said, Duke and North Carolina both have a couple losses, which maybe people aren't used to. So if that's everything, I would like to thank you guys so much for joining us at Our Game, and we'll see you all next week.